And we're back here on Journey into Freedom with me, your host, Red Gypsy. Scarlet Anonymous, my co-host, is traveling last I knew, so I don't know if she's going to make it this evening. She said she would be. Okay, so we have been talking about so before we stop that and restreamed, I misunderstood, I think, my instructions from Mel, so I apologize, Mel. I'm not always, 100% with it with this whole thingamabob happenings. I'm not too great with the technical stuff, man. I'm just not. Interesting. So, very, very interesting. I think my heat actually just went out in my car. Well, my blower for heat or anything just went out in my car. I'm gonna have to take it over to the mechanic tomorrow, I think. Interesting. So I'm trying to give a little bit of time for people to get back with us. I'm hoping that it gave the announcement that we were live again. So as we were saying right before, we were talking about Debbie Sapp, and we had just read through her actual experience in writing. And then so Vogel, through observation of the chart, was then able to note a stop when Debbie exited the plant. And then in later sessions, when Debbie re-entered the plant and was able to describe inner makeup of the cells. Hi, Bonnie. Don't be sorry, my love. You didn't actually miss the show. You just missed the beginning of the show. You know, we are on for 3 hours. I just, it gave me a hard time today getting, on and getting live and broadcasting everywhere. So it would only let me broadcast to, YouTube. And I thought Melissa had fixed it, but it was a miscommunication between, between Mel and me. So she didn't actually fix it. So I had to go off and come back on, which is apparently how you found me, because earlier Pam was on, but nobody else that I saw. So it's only like got me here on YouTube tonight. But that's okay. Now, she was able to describe the cell structures within the plant in great detail. She was even able to specifically note that one of the leaves had been badly burned by an electrode. Vogel then found a hole almost all the way through the leaf. Since Debbie, Vogel has repeated this with dozens of others, asking them to enter a single leaf and look at its individual cells. All were able to give consistent descriptions of various parts of the cellular body, down to the very detailed DNA molecule organization of the plant. Oh, well, I hope your family phone call was good. This brings Vogel to the conclusion that we can move into individual cells within our own bodies, and depending on our own state of mind, we can affect them in various ways. He believed that one day this could explain the cause of disease. So we can see why this would be so dangerous to the modern world, right? Like, to our more update. Not that this was even that long ago that he was doing this research, mind you, within the last 50 years. So it's not long, closer to even than that. So, you know. There's a lot of craziness on the farm tonight, guys. A lot of craziness. The dogs are all acting lunatical this evening. So, yeah. You could see why this would be some dangerous territory. The deep bark is the livestock dog, Cooper. Believe it or not, the wolves have very high-pitched barks that are crazy painful. They're like ear splitting. Very, very, very high pitch. Now, this variability was actually demonstrated on television in 1973 on Good Friday, filmed by CBS TV production team. And they filmed an experiment demonstrated by Vogel himself and Tom Montebello, whom had worked with Vogel for over a year. Yeah, it's very high pitched, the wolves. I would like to disagree with you, Pam, but I don't know if I can. But I will keep you informed on that. Now, to the embarrassment of both of these researchers, the plant seemed non-responsive. Vogel then asked Tom if he could check for problems with the electrodes. To the astonishment of the CBS technicians, Tom just sat there, but after a moment, claimed damage to cells in the upper right-hand corner of the electroded part of the leaf that was shorting the electrical circuit. And in their presence, Vogel removed the electrode and said damage was discovered. Crazy, right? Vogel began teaching children to interact with plants, believing them the most open-minded. He does this first by asking them to feel the leaf, to describe its temperature, consistency, and even texture in detail. Next, he has them bend the leaves to become aware of resilience before going forward to pet the leaves, stroking gently the upper and lower sides. If the student shows pleasure in describing the sensations they feel, then he will ask them to remove their hands from the plant leaves and try to feel a force or an energy coming from the plant. Many of the kids report an instant ripple or tingling sensation. The ones fully engrossed had the strongest sensations, Vogel noted. When the students felt the energy, he would instruct them to completely relax and feel the give and take of the energy. Then told them when they felt the energy pulsing to move their hands up and down over the leaf without touching. Through following his instructions, these young experimenters could easily see that when they dropped their hands, the leaves would fall away. Yes, like an aura. Very much so, Bonnie. Which we had said earlier in the earlier part of the show that you actually missed. We did discuss how Vogel believed um, in a life force or cosmic energy that surrounds all living things and is shareable between animals, humans, and plants alike. And that through such sharing, a plant and a person can become as one. Now, when the students felt the energy, he would instruct them to completely relax and feel the give and the take of the energy. Then told them when they felt the energy pulsing to move their hands up and down without touching over the leaf. And then, they could see that the leaves would fall away. When using both hands, they could get the plants to sway. Exactly, Bonnie. When they gained confidence, Vogel would encourage them to move further and further from the plants. He called this basic training. This allows them to develop an expanding awareness of a force which is not visible. This awareness, once then established, allows the child to see they can operate with this force. Children are much more successful than adults. So, according to Vogel, this means many will not be able to repeat him or Baxter's experiments in laboratories, especially if they approach these experiments in very mechanical ways. Yes, Bonnie, like a dance between the plants and the children. If they do not enter into a mutual communication with the plant and treat them as a friend, they will fail at the experiments. Vogel believes that it's essential to have an open mind that eliminates all preconception before you begin an experiment. And Vogel was actually told by one doctor that worked at the California Physical Society that he had not had a single result, even though he had been trying for months. And the same is also true of Denver's most renowned psychoanalyst of this time. Hundreds of laboratory workers around the world, Vogel says, are going to be just as frustrated and just as disappointed as these men until they can appreciate empathy between plant and human being key. And then they need to learn to establish it. No amount of checking in laboratories is going to prove a thing. until the experiments are done by properly trained observers. Spiritual development is indispensable, but this runs counter to the philosophy of many scientists who do not realize that creative experimentation means that the experimenters must become part of their experiments. Yeah, Bonnie, a little bit. This then highlights differences in approaches between Vogel and Baxter, indicating perhaps that Vogel is establishing a type of hypnotic control over his plants. And Baxter says that his plants, left strictly alone, will normally react to their environment. Yes, it has to be a relationship. So that leaves us, at a very interesting deduction. Vogel says that even when a person can affect a plant, the result is not always a happy one. And he, in fact, asked a friend who was a clinical psychologist, and he had come to see him for himself, if there was any truth to plant research to project a strong emotion to a philodendron 15 feet away. Yeah, kind of hypnotic, Bunny. Um, the plant surged into an instantaneous and very intense reaction and then suddenly went dead. Vogel asked the psychologist what had gone through his mind, and the man answered that he had mentally compared Vogel's plant with his own philodendron at home and thought how inferior Vogel's was to his. The feeling of Vogel's plant was evidently so bad. The feelings of Vogel's plant was so evidently badly hurt that it refused to respond anymore for the rest of the day. In fact, it sulked for 2 weeks. Vogel could not doubt that plants have a definite aversion to certain humans, or more exactly, to what those humans are thinking. Okay, guys, I'm supposed to restart this and do something different, so I'll be right back. Join us again when we return. So stay with us, Bonnie. Stay with us. Yes, it is like telepathy from 15 feet away, or an empathic feeling, both that energy, that aura. We're going to pick this right back up. So join me when I do this, and hopefully I'll be broadcasted across all of our normal places again, not just YouTube. Here we go.